Today we are interviewing filmmaker Kai Creative about how they managed to successfully crowdfund their next film, which is called Rocket Girl Mission to Mars. So yeah, stick around. We'll be talking about how to set up a crowdfunding page, how to come about figuring out what budget you might need for your project, and also some filmmaking tips if you are interested in that. Welcome, Kai! Appearing out of nowhere. Hello!
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you.
No,
I can see you. How are you doing?
For inviting me. I am very well. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Is 2024 starting well for you?
So far, so good.
Good. Glad to hear it. Let's get into the interview, and could you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kai. I'm officially a videographer. So I'm a videographer. I do animation in After Effects. But my passion kind of came from making films as a kid, and that's kind of the direction that I'm kind of rerouting back into. So in the early days, it was difficult to make a living from filmmaking, as that was my experience, and I branched off into like wedding filmmaking and then corporate filmmaking. And then now content creation, and I'm kind of like getting back to that passion stage. I'm sure Yags, you know all about that. Getting distracted by the corporate world to earn a living, and then coming back
money
to
is needed.
It's needed, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the rent is always due. Yeah, well, that sounds good. I'm glad you're finding your way back to what you love. And how long have you been making films?
Yeah, so I actually started learning After Effects probably about 15 years ago as a passion thing. So I was working as like an engineer, and I started learning After Effects. I always had a fascination with films, and I was doing that as a hobby probably about 15 years ago. And then I started properly doing video production stuff about 10 years ago. And yeah, so I've made lots of shorts from those early YouTube days, if people remember those days where people just messed around and wasn't really serious.
So, and how did you develop the skills needed to create films when you started all those years ago?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a passion for something, then you're going to make it happen. So for me, it was like endless evenings coming home from work and then learning After Effects on a really slow potato of a computer, and it crashing every 5 minutes, and then learning how to do things like clones and fireballs. And it started doing things like that. And then I moved on to trying to tell more of a story as opposed to just effects. And then I started, I need something to edit with now. So I started using Premiere and then the whole creative suite. And now moving into things like Unreal, thanks to being inspired by people like you. So yeah, doing Unreal Engine. So yeah, a lot of the stuff for this film has Unreal Engine used in it. And it's been a very enjoyable, painful learning curve. But I think for any creative, it's about using the tools that are available to you to create something and tell a story, whether that be After Effects, Premiere, or Unreal Engine.
Yeah, totally agree. We'll move on to your film in a little bit, but I just remembered how we actually first met was you were filming in Comic-Con, right? So
yes,
was that kind of your initial journey into learning After Effects? Did you use that to inspire you to push yourself in that way? Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So so this is what happened. So basically, when I'd lived abroad for a year, come back, and I was trying to, I got into wedding filmmaking, and I wanted to get more into corporate filmmaking, but I wanted to do fun stuff. So I started to do like modern pop culture events like Comic-Con, MCM, SITSI, Hyper Japan. I think we did EGX as well. And I realized, this is really cool. This is really fun. So we started doing interviews, and basically it was my wife, Lauren, who's also in this short film, by the way. She was my interviewer. So she would go and interview people, and we'd make these cool little like snippets for YouTube. And then, she ended up getting pregnant. I don't know how that happened. I'm sure you can figure it out. And then I was like, crap, we've just started making all of these. We started making all of these cool like Comic-Con Hyper Japan videos, and now I don't have anyone to present because Lauren was doing all my presenting. So I was like, I need to find somebody. So all I did was when I went onto YouTube and I wrote in London vlogger. I wanted to find someone who had energy and was a vlogger. And I stumbled across this girl called YagmanX who had done a London vlog, who was dancing in the streets of London to Octodad. It was like an Octodad thing. And I was like, wow, this person has a lot of confidence to be able to do that. They will surely be able to interview people. So I reached out to you and I said, hey, do you want to do some interviews at Comic-Con? And you were like, yeah, I'll do that. Cool. And then that's how we officially met. So that was Comic-Con, like 2015, something like that. And then from there, we just started doing creative stuff. And then you came to work at QS for a bit.
Yeah.
During that summer. And it was like, we've just done loads of little creative bits here and there.
Gosh,
that's kind of how it's
crazy, isn't it? So if you ever want to just do anything, make videos about anything, do it. I never thought that me making a video about me having socks on my hands, dancing around London would get me a new friend and a new job in the future as well, which is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, during that time when you did all those videos at Comic-Con, I thought it was really cool, and I was quite inspired at the time as well, because I'd never used After Effects before, and Kai would create these short videos. I think it was for your YouTube channel, wasn't it? Or at least you used to upload them, and it was of people in their cosplay, but Kai would use After Effects to really bring their cosplay to life, so they would become that character. Is that something? How did you come up with that idea? Why did you want to do that?
Yeah, this is I don't know how many of your audience remember, like 10, 12 years ago, the YouTube generation of like Freddie Wong, Corridor Digital, a few others that were making these special effect videos. And I was like, man, I want to be able to make cool effects. That's what I got into in After Effects. So I thought I did a whole reel of people as their characters using superpowers. And this was before you could kind of easily do it in CapCut. So it would be like hours painstakingly rotoscoping or masking and putting these effects in. And even today they're not too bad. They've some of them have done well. Some of those like little effects videos have done well. And I guess that's kind of where I'm almost like heading back to now. I've gone full circle. I've done like video production for corporate. I've done like a lot of event stuff, and now I'm like, actually, you know what? My grassroots was I want to tell mini stories, but make it visually appealing. And it's kind of like where I'm kind of heading back now.
Perfect. And that's also, I imagine, why you like making sci-fi films so much, because you get to play around with a lot of really cool effects.
Absolutely. Yes. 100%. And really excited about the stuff that you can do on Unreal now. It's Unreal. Sorry for the pun. Shaking her head. So it is... It is, it's exciting to see like where technology is going. I'm a dad. I am a dad. I have two kids.
There is proof.
I am allowed to take liberty with some of these dad jokes. And I think involving the whole family as well, just doing something with your family that you love and sharing that passion. And also like my daughter, Naya, who is Rocket Girl, basically, she's just totally up for, being in a movie and role. She loves it. Like, I mean, and I don't see too many kids that wouldn't really enjoy that, to be honest. But yeah, she does well. She
just gets stuck in, doesn't she? Yeah, she's great. I do actually have a little clip from your film here as well. So in your own words, describe what your film Rocket Girl Mission to Mars is about.
So Rocket Girl Mission to Mars. Oh, the trailer's playing. I can see it. Amazing. Yeah. Basically, it's it's the follow-up of a film that we made in lockdown called Rocket Girl. So this is now Rocket Girl 2 Mission to Mars, where she continues her journey into outer space. And really, you're following it in the imagination of a young child who is going through different challenges. In the first film, she had a challenge of her mum and dad kind of arguing all the time. And she... like her imagination and the way she was kind of brought the family back together. And this film now, she has a bigger, worse challenge and that is that she has a small brother that she has to share the limelight with. So things don't go too well until, well, you'll see in the movie.
I love it. I love it. I think it's going to be very relatable to a lot of kids out there as well. And just looking at this trailer, I can't wait to watch it. You've done such a good job using Unreal Engine in this as well, because this is the second film. Did you use Unreal Engine in your first film? So this is your first delve into Unreal Engine for filming. That's really fun. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. So why did you create this film?
So basically, this is an idea that came from lockdown. So lockdown, early 2020, most of us remember literally nothing to do. All my freelance work disappeared. Where I was working at the time, at like part-time as well at QS, we didn't have any work. Even though we were all remote, no one knew what video content to produce. So we were sitting there, nothing to do. Family was all at home, and I made a joke to one of my family on WhatsApp about how Naya, my daughter's Naya, how she's driving us mad, and I wish we could just send her to the moon. And it's weird because that idea, I was like, actually, I could probably do that as a film. And then I made a PDF, like a jokey PDF, and I sent it out to all the family WhatsApp groups and said, hey, we're going to send Naya to the moon. And people were like, they didn't know what it was. It was just a joke. And then they were like, this is really cool. You should do this. So I was like, cool. And then we spent probably about 2 or 3 months, because we had so much free time, just filming and writing the scripts, filming it, trying out different effects, and just having fun. That was the kind of the first movie. And it has evolved into a second movie that, because people kept asking, is there a sequel? Are you going to make another one? And I was like, maybe, if I could get some funding for it, because it's not cheap and I don't have the time now because I'm back at work full time. So so that's kind of how it evolved into what it is now.
Were you surprised that people wanted to see a second film?
Yeah, we submitted the first film to a couple of film festivals. Like my mum and dad were like, this is really good, you should submit it to film festivals, and so we did. It was featured in our like local newspaper here in Kent.
Aww.
So we were like, okay, well, let's try and kickstart. We wanted to kickstart a book based on the film, so we did a Kickstarter for the book, and it fell flat. Literally, we wanted about £3,000, and we got to about half of that funding. And then, we didn't get any more people support us. So we realized that people didn't really want to book. Maybe we should focus on doing a second film. So that's why we were like, well, maybe if we kickstarted a second movie. And we were successfully funded on that. And that's why we pushed ahead.
Amazing. Well, we'll talk about that more in detail in a bit. So don't worry, viewers. We will talk about that. But I've just got some more questions to ask you about the film. So are these the Rocket Girl films? Are they your first films that you've made? I know you talked about your YouTube videos before that.
This is the longest film that I've produced. So the running time of this film altogether is about 25 minutes, which is the longest, I'd say. I think the second longest, probably between 10, nothing longer than 10 minutes in the past. So this is definitely longer. And in a world where we have short form content, trying to keep people's attention for that period of time is quite challenging, particularly like a kid. So we've got a live viewing of this, and Naya has invited all of her friends like from school, and family members are going to be there. So that will be the true test of whether people like really connect with it or not. And I think that's going to be quite scary to see as a filmmaker,
especially kids. Kids are like brutally honest, which is good, but also a terrifying thing. So before you made this film and you crowdfunded it, you talked about you made Rocket Girl 1. So this says films, but imagine this just says film. How did you fund your previous film, so the first Rocket Girl? How'd you get money for that? So
it was a shoestring budget. It was literally donations from family to like sending over the props, paying for like the cardboard rocket that we used in the first one. And to be honest with you, it was resource filmmaking. So after the film, I made a course, I made a Skillshare class on resource filmmaking based on making that film. Like
Ah,
literally how to create a film with no money, basically. And I think there were like 2,000
interesting.
students on that Skillshare class. So a lot of people are actually interested in how they can just make stuff with what you have available. Yeah, it was more than anything, it's time, as most people probably realize, just to sit down to edit, well, to script, to get an idea, to sit down to edit, then, you know, I'm sorry, to film and then edit and all the planning around it. And this film was so much more because we had shots like on the beach. We had a lot of different not locations. We filmed in the office at home, but we had to, like, at one stage we blacked it all out with like a corrugated black plastic stuff
Yeah.
that they use in building. And then in another stage, we had to cover it all in tinfoil. So it was like constantly, I was working constantly, and I had all this stuff in the background. And you can see that in my YouTube videos. I do a lot of YouTube review videos. So you'll see like tinfoil in the
Yes.
background of some of my review videos because of that film.
Your house
So
was
yeah,
and is your set, basically.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because it's free.
Exactly. So yeah.
Cool. And so you just mentioned, well, you've mentioned YouTube a lot, actually. Is that what pays your bills
So,
alongside
so
the films?
the great thing about YouTube, right? I know we're on Twitch mainly, but I think this is going on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Is that YouTube, like the way that we met, it creates opportunities out of thin air, right? You were dancing on the street with long sleeves, and I was like, hey, that's someone who could do something for me. And then, you know, we was able to be a connection in the future, and then work together in QS. So for me, during the pandemic, I lost all my freelance work. So for context, I worked 3 days a week as head of video for a company called QS. I then freelanced on the weekends and Mondays and Fridays for my business, which is Kai Creative. And all my freelance corporate work disappeared within 2 weeks. And then probably early 2021, I went through redundancy at work, which was very painful. And for about 6 months, I was relying on YouTube AdSense, Amazon affiliates, all types of like Skillshare, as an example, to kind of make ends meet, until I started working with, I started working pretty much with Naz Academy a month after, but I didn't properly get regular work with them until about 6 months after. So it was, YouTube is probably
Yeah.
the greatest thing. And I remember this YouTuber, right, telling me to make a YouTube channel talking about what I did, like share my nuggets of knowledge, is what this YouTuber said to me. And I said to them, why would I do that? Because plenty of people are talking about YouTube, are talking about filmmaking and photography already. And she said to me, because no one can explain it like you explain it. And that's why I started YouTube, like to take YouTube more seriously. And that was you. So
This is supposed to be about you, Kai. Thank you.
so thank you.
I'm glad
Thank you
you
for telling me
did.
to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm glad I did as well. I'm glad you told me that.
I mean, honestly, and now, I mean, especially with the Amazon affiliate stuff, you've cracked a lot of kind of the code of how to sort of make a living on YouTube, much better than I did. Why did you decide to crowdfund this film?
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, previous to this crowdfunding, we tried to crowdfund a book based
Nice.
on the first film. And through that experience, that painful experience of setting it all up, doing like the page and making a little video and kind of pushing it constantly. Like we had a list of people that we like literally down to individuals that I knew that I was targeting and saying like, hey, do you want to support this book? And most people were like, a book? Not really. Maybe a movie because you're a movie maker.
You're a filmmaker.
So I've been on Kickstarter, like I've had an account for a while. I don't know if anyone remembers VGHS, Video Game High School.
Yeah.
I remember the buzz of, and that was like at the time was one of the fastest funded Kickstarter movies ever. VGHS, that like the series, it was like a series, right? And it's I'm following this guy who goes to Video Game High School. I'm telling you, Yags, you need to check it. Go watch it. You love
I do
it.
need to.
So after that, I've always thought of like, yeah, I should do a Kickstarter for something, because you can see it from someone else's experience how quickly they made, like, money to support their project. And then there's an artist called Seb Chow that I think you might know. He did a comic called Catapulted, and I helped to make his Kickstarter video, and he was successfully funded. So I was watching that project with interest, and I saw him get successfully funded. So I thought maybe we should try this as well, and that's kind of the reason why I wanted to try and kickstart or use crowdfunding for a project. And yeah, just so happens that we got it for Rocket Girl 2 Mission to Mars.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if that answers your question. Was that your, what was your question?
It was, why did you decide to crowdfund this film? And it absolutely did. I mean, it sounds to me like you honestly just wanted the challenge of crowdfunding something to see if you could do it. And you tried it with this book, and then you realized, what am I doing? I'm a filmmaker. I should do it with a film.
I'll be honest with you. When that book fell through, we, like myself, my wife, we both were involved in that. We felt really quite miserable that we didn't get the support that we thought we would get. We made it halfway, and then it just, it was growing at the beginning, and I remember seeing the numbers go up every day. It was brilliant. And then it was almost like the stock market, it flatlined. And we were like, oh, no one really supports, no one really cares. And we put a lot of effort into try and ramp up support. Like, we were contacting family and friends and associates. I don't know, I might have sent you a message as well saying, hey, Yags, check out this. You might have even supported it, I don't know. Check out this book. And no one, after the initial burst, no one cared. And that can be quite a painful experience. So I think I've got the perspective of both sides, like successful and being unsuccessful. So yeah.
Which is good, because there's a good few questions here that I think you can answer from both sides. So I'm glad you're on today. Yeah. Okay, so which crowdfunding platform did you choose and why? Because there are a couple of different ones.
Right. Okay. So what I would say is, if you go with Kickstarter, because I've always been on Kickstarter since the VGHS days, it's all or nothing. If you don't reach target, so you set a target. So if you set $3,000 as a target, $5,000, whatever. If you don't reach that, you will not get the money. You will not get paid out. So when you're thinking about how much you want to get paid, and how much it's going to cost, realize that if you get even $1 less, Kickstarter is not going to pay out any money they're not going to take money from your backers, and they won't pay it. I think Indiegogo is different. I believe Indiegogo, you will get whatever ends up in that pot to help you deliver your project, but then you can add tiers to your project. You can also add tiers in Kickstarter as well, but it's almost like if I reach this much funding, then I can produce this. If I reach this much funding, then I can expand my project to extra stuff.
Cool. So I guess one's more forgiving than the other, but you chose Kickstarter just because that's the one you had heard the most of. Yeah, so
after doing Seb's comic book video and then our video, we decided to give it another chance. To be honest, if I was to crowdfund another project, I might go with Indiegogo.
Okay.
Or here's the thing, you could do both.
Both at the same time.
Both at the same time. You could crowdfund on both.
Yeah.
As I believe it to be presently, I think that's okay. There might be a clause now which says you can't. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Look into it.
I'll look into it. Yeah, I'll look into it.
Yeah. What was the most challenging part during your crowdfunding process? I guess because you have a failed and a successful one, you probably have a few different ideas.
Right. So you can set a period of time to have your crowdfunding on Kickstarter. So we chose, I think for the book, we chose 30 days. And I think for the movie, we added on a little bit longer. I think it was almost two months, maybe 60 days. And it's just that the anticipation, like every day when you first kind of push it and you start getting those numbers come in, it can be very exciting. And then when you flatline and you don't get anything for a day, it can be very like you can feel, it's weird. You feel like, oh, I'm not being supported. And then it does mess with you a little bit in a like with your psychology. I get it, like the way you think, your mentality, your mental outlook. So for me is just be patient and promote it. And if you've been realistic with your expectations and what you're offering, then yeah, I think for me that just the waiting, just the hoping.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it sounds similar to doing anything on the internet, like YouTube as well. But with YouTube, there's no end date. So it's like, oh, it's fine if my videos aren't doing great this month. That's cool. It can always go up next month. But yeah, if you've got an end date and you know you need to reach a certain number by, that's got to be quite intimidating. Now, this one is an interesting question. Because I don't know exactly what goes into creating a crowdfunding page. So do you have sort of like a shopping list of things that someone would need to set up a successful page? So maybe like a trailer, certain perks, like, what would they need to bear in mind?
Yes, absolutely. So the most successfully backed projects on Kickstarter have a video. If you can physically show people what you're going to produce. Also, yeah, have a track record, maybe on social, of what you do. So I can see that, yes, what you're telling me you're going to produce, I can trust that you will do it. So, for example, if Seb was making his comic book and I went to his Instagram page, I would see all of his sketches and drawings and kind of a backlog of work of what he'd done in the past. Mm-hmm. Put your socials on there so people can see that. You also want to think about, like, realistically how much you will need. So for us, we basically sat down and we were like, how much do we need, like, for props? How much do we need? What, like, kind of camera upgrades and stuff will we need? And yeah, we had like a weekend away at a beach, which was going to cost X amount. So we need to factor that in. All of that stuff is stuff that you want to sit down and think about, like, what do I need? And realistically, like, can I get that from my audience, right? Having an audience is also really useful. So a lot of projects initially are going to be from your family and friends, like the funding, but you're also going to start thinking about, okay, have I got fans that might also support this? And, where are they? Like, where can I reach out to them? Where can I put promotional stuff? Because we did a bunch of promotional material for Rocket Girl, both the book and this movie, when we were doing the Kickstarter campaign. And then you want to start doing things like thinking of the rewards. You're going to have a reward system. So where if you donate a certain amount, you will get not just, a behind the scenes film, as well as the main film, as well as a poster, a signed poster, a script. I think we go all the way up to script and storyboard and postcards and digital downloads of the first movie, the second movie, and behind the scenes. So just having that tier system as well is going to make people give, like, more depending on what they want as a reward.
Yes, giving them incentives to give you money beyond just the final product, right?
That's right, yeah.
Especially for you, because are you releasing the film on YouTube? So it'll be publicly available. Yes. Yeah.
So what we have, this is one of the top tiers, was to watch the live release.
Gotcha.
On YouTube in a Zoom party, and there's a Q&A after, and that will be one day after the kind of live launch with in the hall. So yes, if the bulk of the Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, you're going to want to kind of list out what the project is, make it very clear what the deliverables are, so people know exactly what they're supporting, and give dates. Now, we did not hit the dates that we wanted to release, but just because I didn't realize how big this project would be, and also how long it would take to learn Unreal Engine. Jesus Christ, it was massive. I started using miniatures. And halfway through I was like, no, I'm going to use Unreal for this. And then I had to learn that. So that added 6, 7, 8 months of learning on top of it. So, but there's a project page and you've got an update section, and you can update your followers. You say, look, there's a delay because of X, Y, Z. Just keep people in the loop all the way through the project. So they know, right, that, there's a hiccup here or something, but I am going to deliver. Lots of Kickstarters don't actually deliver.
Right.
So they get the funding and then they don't actually produce anything. So don't be one of those people that makes promises and then takes the money and runs.
Okay, cool. Next question. How do you set an appropriate crowdfunding target?
Yes, yeah,
For
exactly.
money.
So be realistic, and also realize that depending on how much you want to bring the project to life, you want to think, do I want to make a profit from this, or do I just want to bring this project to life, right? So after talking to Seb, I realized that's quite a few of these guys on Kickstarter. What they do is they amass a load of cash from Kickstarter. They pay artists to make their book. They make it, they ship it out, they make a profit, and then they go to the next crowdfunding goal. And people love the comics, but the guy doing it is a businessman or woman, and they've decided, look, I'm using this to make a profit. This is my goal. Yeah. For me, it was a passion thing. I never wanted to make a profit. I just wanted funds to be able to get the props, upgrade some of the equipment. And a lot of the biggest thing for me has just been time. Like, the time suck is massive. But having fun along the way is part of just being a creative, I think. So you have to think about which camp you lie in. Are you the I'm going to make a profit camp, or I'm here to really bring something to life that I love? And I think when you find out which one of those you are in, then you can decide on how much you need. For me, I definitely made a loss because of the time that it took out of this last month. I've turned down loads of freelance work just to get this project finished. So I've taken a financial hit to get it done on time. But a lot of people, they're in it to make money. So I think ask yourself that question first, and it will be better to help you answer it.
Yeah, good point. And then, so once you decide, how did you come up with your figure? Because you mentioned that you got together and figured out like everything you'd need for the film. So the rover and the license plates, you already had the cameras, which is great. Did you decide to try and offset the cost of all of those things and use that for your crowdfund target? What was the decision making?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I already had the lights, the cameras, the sound equipment. That wasn't necessarily an issue. It was like the rover, the astronaut suits, the stuff to plaster into the office. I needed additional lighting for some of the tube lights and stuff. Things about just creating the atmosphere. I bought a bunch of assets from Unreal as well. So storm pack assets, dust asset, all this stuff that would take me hours to build. I could just buy it from Turbo Squid or buy it from the Unreal Marketplace. Yeah. And that was an unforeseen cost because I didn't intend to go down that route. I was using miniatures. And actually, these things came out of nowhere. Hotel stay, going down to Camber Sands for the weekend to get all those beach shots early in the morning. All of that was factored in. But like I said, what I never really factored in was my time. I wasn't getting paid for the time. So all the props and all the bits we kind of needed covered, which is fantastic. But my time wasn't. So if you're going to embark on a project where you want to pay yourself, then that's a completely different ballgame, because then you'll need to work out how long it's going to take you, how many days, how much your hourly rate is or your day rate to work on this so that you can pay your bills and everything else. So for me, I was still working in between kind of doing this project. That's why it was delayed for quite a while.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Am I
No, it does. Yeah. What helped get this project successfully crowdfunded? This is cool because you've had a failed crowdfund and then a successful one. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but why do you think this one was successful versus the other one not being successful? And perhaps, do you think having a not successful crowdfund page helped you then be successful in your next attempt?
Yeah, I think it's like the laws of the economy, right? It's like supply and demand. Supply stuff that people are demanding. Don't create something that people don't want. If you are a creative, which I imagine quite a few of your audience probably are, and you're in the digital domain creating stuff, then look at what people want and try and build something around that. So for us, trying to create the book, there wasn't really any interest. Having a second film was more of interest to people in general, particularly on my platform, as well as family and friends. So Yeah, and so like a lot of the initial support was family and friends. If you look at like the supporters, it's family and friends initially, and then as the project kind of builds, and if you're lucky, Kickstarter promotes it. You get a little promotion from Kickstarter, and they show it on their front page. Then you'll start to see other people get involved and throw you some money as well, like back it as well.
Yeah.
So that's my advice: create something that people want.
I think that leads on very nicely to what you said, because I was going to say, how do you know what people want? That's always a massive question. It's like, I want to make things, but how do I know what people even want from me? And from just already getting your hands dirty and doing things online and building an audience if you can, or at least gauging interest from whoever is out there, then you'll see what you A, enjoy doing, and then B, what other people like to see you do as well. It's good advice. Cool. Would you recommend someone crowdfund? So if I did want to crowdfund a horror game, would you recommend me actually do it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For someone like yourself, who's an established personality online, who has like, I think I watched one of your Unreal tutorials, and it was like, it blew up really quickly, didn't it? The make a music video in Unreal.
Yeah.
That inspired me to use Unreal. That video. I was like, man, this is so good. So I think, a lot of people would be down for that if you were to create something and use Indiegogo or Kickstarter. I don't know. Ask the guys here. Would you guys support Yags's Kickstarter campaign? I'm sure they would. I would. Yeah, absolutely.
What about thank you. What about someone who isn't a YouTuber? Like, doesn't have that online presence already, but maybe they're like, maybe they're a game developer in a AAA studio or something. So they have skills, but they haven't already started putting themselves. Would you recommend them crowdfunding a project?
It depends. It depends on a few things. I think back to Seb's Catapult comic, and I don't think he's got a massive following. He still has quite a good Instagram like page, like it's really good, but I don't think he's necessarily in the tens of thousands of followers. But he successfully was able to crowdfund for his comic book. So I think if you can bring, and one of the reasons actually was that Kickstarter promoted it on their page. So if you can get the attention of Kickstarter with your projects, you might not necessarily need that kind of backing, but it certainly does help to have something to show somewhere. So, Yags wants to make an Unreal Engine game, and she's got all these tutorials that show me how to use Unreal Engine. I trust that she can deliver on that. However, if someone comes to me and I see it on Kickstarter and, they're promoting it and they're like, hey, I want to make this game, but I don't have anything to show, then it's a little bit more like, well, why would I trust this person to take my money and actually deliver versus just taking it and not producing anything? So I think that trust is a big thing. And I know you. I know whatever you set out to do, you're going to create it. You're going to make it. So I can trust that it will be delivered and it will be awesome. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is just building trust with investors, essentially.
I guess it goes back to the shopping list that you were saying, and one of the vital things was the visibility on other platforms, so people can know what they're going to be paying into. That makes perfect sense. Cool. And what's one piece of advice, just one succinct piece of advice that you'd give to someone thinking of crowdfunding?
Think about like the reason why you want to do this project or create this thing, and really do like a breakdown of what you need to achieve that. Like not just from money, but like from my experience, time. And there were times during this project I was just like, I just don't want to do it anymore. Just bored now. I'm just doing other things. Like you really want to stick it out and produce it. So sit down and just plan everything out, like on a couple of pieces of paper, and just have it visibly in front of you. And then you'll figure out whether you need the funding. Like the adage is, if you want to do something, you'll find a way. If you really want to do something, you'll find a way. And if you really don't if it's not that big a deal, you'll find an excuse, and then so you really got to figure out the why
True
to this project.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of fear that probably will come with crowdfunding because it's different to just using your own time and money, because hey, if you decide you don't want to do it one day, that's fine because no one's invested in it. But I think sometimes the more fear you feel about something, it shows that you really want to do it. Whereas if you're not, maybe it's just me, but if you're not bothered, then maybe you don't want to as much. But yeah. And I didn't think about that actually. When you say that you sometimes didn't want to carry on with the film, but then you realise, well, can't because people have given me money. So I guess in a way, it's a good thing to hold you accountable to actually carry on and get to the finish line. That I know a lot of people struggle with that. And the final question before we go on to the Q&A section is, would you crowdfund again? I think you've already said this anyway.
Yeah, I think so I'm gonna it's a little bit different for me now because I've got more freedom, because before I was looking after my son most of the week and doing the school run, and now my son is just started preschool. So it's like, oh man, my time has opened up. So I think the next few things for me are going to be just creating more content for my channel. I want to build a couple more short courses, and I want to do more filmmaking, like kind of family friendly stuff, but more like After Effects, more Unreal, but not as long. So I don't necessarily know if I need crowdfunding for those projects, but if enough attention was garnered and people demanded like a third film, as an example, then yeah, I would absolutely do crowdfunding. But this time I would do it like I am going to be paid for this myself. So it'd have to be that would have to be factored in.
Gotcha. So that would be your learnings, is that you would crowdfund again, but you'd pay more attention into how much of your personal time it would take up.
Exactly.
And make sure that
is the answer.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Although I did hear that your daughter wants to make the next Rocket Girl film, so I don't think you're allowed to do that. She's going to be directing.
Yes, she can absolutely. She has the time. She has the time to do that.
She can set up a crowdfunding page and get all this money.
She can absolutely do that. Yeah, I said to her, if you want to write the next script and you want to do it all, then yes, you can hire me and I will be your employee to do it all, to do the editing.
Oh, I'd love to see that one. Okay, so let's go on to the Q&A section. So we have, I think the first one is from Moscato, and they say, on being patient and promoting, do you have any insight in how much of the crowdfunding was organic growth versus people responding to your promotion?
Yeah, so when you crowdfund, obviously you get the details of the people who have funded your movie. And what I'll say is this: majority at the beginning is going to be family and friends. They're the people that jump on it and it starts to push it up. And if Kickstarter gets a hold of it, I can't remember if Kickstarter promoted it, but when we started to get additional funding from people we didn't know and weren't subscribers and weren't fans of the project, you can look at all of that in your control panel in Kickstarter, so you can see that. So I think I'll need to go into it, but I think probably we had like a 50-50 split between people we knew and people we didn't know, which I think is quite good, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that is pretty good. We have another question from DC Bradshaw. I've heard other Kickstarters say to beware of physical stretch goals / add-ons because of shipping minefields, especially post-Brexit. Is this something you are consciously thinking about or nervous about?
Yeah, this is a good point. This is a great question. So we added on. So people in the UK, it was free postage, or it was included to some amount. But I think if it was like abroad, depending on where you were, we could add on a slight extra fee to cover the shipping. So
I didn't know
we
about
added on like £3 to £5 extra, depending on what the tiers were as well. Because if you
that.
think
Okay.
about it, you're sending physical stuff like scripts. We're sending like scripts and storyboards and postcards and posters. It's a lot of stuff. And I remember when I supported Freddie Wong's VGHS, they sent me a copy of the script, a poster, a T-shirt, and they they wrote the value of it down as being something like $150. So we had to pay like £50 to get it from the post office. So we got hit with the
Wow.
tax, and I was like, "Thanks, guys. Thanks for hitting me."
Yeah,
But
because you've
those were the
you've
earlier
already
days.
supported them, and then yeah.
Um, so that's one thing to think about. Yeah. If you're sending something physical as opposed to digital, it it's going to impact. But I guess it's nice to have that kind of extra stuff like the script and posters and stuff as well. So we did add them in. So yeah, something to think about, guys. Take that into account. Look at, and it really depends on what your audience is, because we had backers from Australia and the
Wow.
US that I was like, we don't know these people, but it's like, wow, like these platforms are worldwide. So do really consider who might be supporting you and how much it might cost to get stuff to them, because that's going to eat
Gosh.
into your amount.
Yeah, I never really thought about that because I guess it's similar with my Patreon because I send out cards, but I don't think I've ever had that issue. I've only really sent to US, that's like the furthest away, but it's just a card, so I guess it's different depending on what you're sending and the value of it as well. But yeah, good shout, good shout. Okay, so rounding off with, when does Rocket Girl release and where can we watch it?
It's gonna release on the 21st of January, which is a
Woo!
Sunday. So hopefully you're at home. Um, the time has yet to be decided because I need to arrange that with the like top tier backers. So yeah, it will be on YouTube on the Kai Creative YouTube channel.
Oh, and if you want a link to Kai's YouTube channel, then click on the link in the chat now. That's actually a link to the Rocket Girl Mission to Mars film trailer, but you'll be able to find his channel through that as well. So go check it out if you're intrigued, and I think you should be because it looks really cool, and I love the fact that you've used Unreal Engine. I'm gonna have to pick your brain about that actually, because I've recently updated from UE4 to UE5 and the export process is different and it's way more bug prone than it used to be, which
Oh, really?
yeah, we'll have another chat about that, but I'm getting a lot of like frame drops. I did an image sequence and used FFmpeg to create the video from the image sequence, and it's just the quality is not as good as it used to be. So I think the problem with Unreal is that it gives you so many options that it's very easy to make something look crap because you need to utilize the options and to understand them to get the best out of them. But the default settings they give you just will kind of not be great. But yeah, we can chat about that. You used Unreal Engine 5, didn't you, for this?
I have, yeah. I've been using Unreal Engine 5. Yes.
Very nice.
With the new updates and all of those render settings. Everything I did was in 4K, and so far I think it's been okay. I haven't noticed a drop. But yeah,
Very
dropping
nice.
frames when I exported from 30 FPS, I was still picking it up as 25 in Premiere. So not really sure why there's a mismatch there. Very confusing.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, we'll chat about it. I think it might be because I was just recording like a skybox, but I don't know why that would have been dropping frames. I was doing it 24 frames, not 30 frames. But yeah, maybe I'll ask you to send me some screenshots of what your render settings were. Because I started watching YouTube videos like there's so many export settings you can do in Unreal now. It used to be so simple. There was just like tick boxes and just some sliders here or there. Now there's like whole sections you can tick on or off, and I'm like, okay, I need to relearn Unreal Engine. But yeah, thank you for your time. Mustafa says it's a very cute trailer. Have you watched it already, Mustafa? Oh,
That's very kind. Thank you. Yeah.
that's very kind. And Direct Crib says, thank you both for the stream and chat. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And, where did it go? There it is. And before you leave, just promote yourself. Where can we all find you? Where do you post the most?
It's Kai Creative, and I post on pretty much all channels. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Yeah, main 4.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been very insightful. I hope this gives people something to think about, especially coming into the new year. Maybe there's a project that you've been thinking about, you're not quite sure how to get it off the ground without some funding. Maybe crowdfunding is for you.
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly.
I think someone in the comments did say that they're looking to do crowdfunding.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's
nice.
Maybe I didn't see it. Yeah.
Nice.
Definitely something to consider, guys. Yeah. See you guys. Take care.
Okie doke. All right, so there you go. And Kai shared some wonderful nuggets of knowledge with us that I am very thankful for. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to see you here. Most of you are probably back at work now, aren't you? So I hope work is going well for you, or whatever 2024 has had in store. So I will see you on Monday. Have a lovely day or evening, and goodbye. Thank you so much to my Patreons: October Night Games, Bruce Barrett, Salvatore Merrifield, Sherman Jackson, Dave Smith, Stuart Terry, Ib196, and Quinn Darko. Your support means so much.